Coming up on DFE News, more exclusive breaking news coming out of Iran from DFE's trusted sources. News like Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi now giving orders to the Iranian military. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. DFE's Tammy Devine will tell us much more. Also, we have the latest on the arrest heard around the world when the U.S. removed the Venezuelan dictator and his wife. We'll tell you the charges they face and reaction here in the U.S. and in Venezuela. And an ICE agent has shot and killed a woman protesting ICE activities, but Homeland Security says she was using lethal force against them. We've got news for you, those stories and more right now on DFE News. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome back to DFE News, News Done Right. I'm Jeff Kirk. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment so everyone gets to see DFE News. So much is going on. Let's get right to it. Recently, we provided breaking news exclusives about Iran, which could be the next country President Trump has his eye on for regime change following his arrest of Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro. Now we have more breaking news from trusted sources on what's happening on the ground in Iran. Our DFE president and CEO, Tammy Devine, who also hosts the new Tammy's Take podcast, has been providing exclusive news on the unfolding civil war in the Islamic Republic. Tammy, what's the latest on the Ayatollah Khamenei and his hold on Iran?
Yeah, it's really interesting there, Jeff. We have information that is way ahead of the mainstream media. And what we're understanding right now is that the Ayatollah Khamenei may be fleeing to Russia. The mainstream media has been reporting that, but what they haven't been reporting is that the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps that protects the Ayatollah and the people in power there, they are running to France, actually. So while Khamenei is running to Russia, or maybe running to Russia, his Guard Corps is running away to France. They're asking for visas for their family members. So the grip is loosening on Iran by the Islamic forces that have been in control of it for decades. And that's all because of these huge protests that have been going on, but also because of President Donald Trump and what he did in Venezuela with Maduro. Ousting Maduro out of Venezuela has got practically the whole world on notice that if you mess with the interests of the United States, you will have consequences. He's backing up his words with actions. He had said earlier that if the regime was going to shoot and kill protesters, then the U.S. would intervene. And we are getting reports. Some mainstream reports show that more than 50 people have been killed by this regime. And so if that's the case, the president is going to take action.
So yeah, it does sound like that red line has been crossed. Has there been any indication of what type of action President Trump might take in response?
Yeah, my sources, which are very solid, very trustworthy sources, are telling me that the US is mobilizing their forces. I can tell you first here with breaking news, exclusive news, that the US has mobilized their Delta Force, as well as airlifters and refueling air tankers. They have been mobilized and they're moving forward towards Iran. They've been mobilized into the Middle East. And so it looks like the US is going to get involved.
That would be absolutely incredible. It's been a long time since the Ayatollahs have been in power and the Islamic Revolution took over in 1979. Earlier, you mentioned that the current regime might be losing their grip on the country. Is there anyone who currently seems to be rising in power in order to replace them, to take their place?
Yeah, Jeff, when you mentioned that the Ayatollahs have been in control for a very long time, since the 1970s, the Shah before that was Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Pahlavi, let me say that correctly. So he passed away, but his son, Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince, has been in exile, and he is taking over. It looks like protesters are calling out his name. They want him back in power, and he is actually, now this is breaking exclusive news. Pahlavi is actually giving orders to the military right now. And so he's also really encouraging the protesters to stay out there, to continue with the protesting, and to take over their country. So Pahlavi is the one who many of the protesters on the ground in Iran want to be in charge. He is the crown prince, and it looks like he's taking charge.
So you mentioned earlier that he's encouraging the Iranian people to stay out in the streets and protest. What kind of activities are going on currently from the protesters?
All kinds of different activities. The protesters are seizing equipment. That's what my sources are telling me. They're seizing weapons, they're seizing bikes and motorcycles, they're seizing vehicles from the IRGC. And they're also burning flags of the Islamic regime. And they're burning all kinds of other symbols from the Khamenei administration. And so they are making their voices heard, and they're pushing back hard against the IRGC.
So I've seen reports recently that the internet has been shut off in Iran right now. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true and it's not true. So let me explain that. More breaking exclusive news on that. Um, we all know that the internet has been completely cut off. And what's really interesting is that apparently there was a hacker that took down some government websites. And so there were some sites that went dark that belonged to the Khamenei regime. But then the internet was completely slowed down. Then it was totally cut off. And now Elon Musk has come to the rescue. This is new information. He has provided Starlink for the protesters and the people of Iran right now so that they can continue communication throughout the country.
That's very good news that they're still able to communicate with each other, because obviously you need to be able to communicate in order to coordinate events such as these protests.
Yeah.
Speaking of the larger regime, if the Ayatollah, if he has left the country and no longer has control, and the crown prince Pahlavi is able to take control, and the regime does fall, that's good news for the region, correct? To include Israel?
Absolutely. And more news that nobody's reporting, but you'll hear it here first. Israel has already put troops on the ground in Iran. The IDF has mobilized. They're there, they're fighting because Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave the order. He approved fighting on the ground by IDF, Israeli Defense Forces. And so it will be good news for Israel, definitely for this regime to be toppled, because they have been attacked and just brutally attacked with all kinds of bombings and explosions and a lot of death and destruction by Iranian proxies. And those proxies, Hamas, and not to mention Hezbollah, and yeah, in Lebanon, as well as the Houthis in Yemen. They are all a threat to Israel, and a lot of it is just having to do with Islamic conquest of the region.
So you mentioned the Israeli Defense Forces being present on the ground in Iran. Have you heard any information about what type of activities they are performing there? Are they providing support to the protesters, or are they taking more direct action against the Ayatollah's regime?
Yeah, it sounds like they're taking more direct action against the regime. From what I'm understanding, there are a lot of bombings happening and a lot of explosions taking place. Now, the protesters, in pushing back against the regime, it's really caused a chaotic situation within the Iranian military and within the regime. And so what that looks like is civil war within the country. And so these protesters have become very brave, very bold. They've taken over a number of cities. In my first reporting about this situation, I named four of the cities, including Mahalat and Elam. But now we're adding a couple more cities, and those include Shiraz, which is the Garden City. It's known as the Garden City, and Mashhad, which is known for their golden domes and religious pilgrimages. So the IRGC forces have backed down, and the protesters have moved in to at least six cities, if not more, in the country. And so they have the wind against their back, it sounds like, and they're moving forward. These protesters, I think that it could very well be that we may see the end of the Ayatollah Khamenei regime any day.
So, Tammy, why should the average American care about any of this that's going on right now?
That's a great question. You know, in journalism, we're taught to ask, so what? Like, why does this matter to the viewer? And to ask that and to answer. And so the answer to that, so what? Why does it matter to Americans is a number of reasons. Number one, we all know that Iran has been the number one state sponsor of terrorism around the world. And that has had a deep impact on US interests and also on our ally Israel through proxies, as I've mentioned. Um, Iran has attacked Israel constantly over the many decades. And so that impacts what um, us as an ally is going to do when our friends in Israel are being attacked. And and then of course there's the oil and gas situation. They are a major producer of oil, and if Iran loses control of that and it falls under United States control, or someone who's friends with the US, that has a big impact on other producers like Russia and China. And so that ends up ultimately being a good thing for us in America. Our gas prices then go down, and we face economic stability. And so stability, I think, is a key in all of this. If Iran continues as is, the Middle East remains unstable as it has for as long as most of us can remember. And so, the goal has always been peace in the Middle East. And with Khamenei out, a lot of people will see that as bringing peace and stability to Israel and to the countries around there that have been under oppression by the Iranian regime for so long.
Tammy, where can people go to find out more about the current situation?
Yeah, we are reporting right here on DFE News on Facebook and on YouTube, and we'll be posting these on all the other socials as well. So people can look up DFE News, or they can look up Divine Family Entertainment on any of the socials, and they'll be able to keep up with all of this exclusive breaking news that we're providing. And eventually, I think the regular media will catch up.
That's Tammy Devine, President and CEO of Divine Family Entertainment and host of her new podcast, Tammy's Take, which you can catch on YouTube and Facebook by following DFE. Tammy, always good to talk to you.
Thanks, Jeff. You too.
In a daring surprise raid early Saturday morning, January 3rd, U.S. Special Forces removed dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife from the Venezuelan capital of Caracas. Nicolas Maduro, who some call the illegitimate ruler of Venezuela, is now in custody in the U.S. along with his wife, Celia Flores. The pair now face a series of criminal charges, including drug trafficking and narco-terrorism, among others. Democrats wasted no time in condemning the raid and the capture of Maduro, calling it reckless or even an illegal act of war. Reaction online has mostly been split along party lines, but Venezuelans around the world celebrated Maduro's capture. Listen to one happy protester.
Muy emocionada llorando. ¿Cómo se siente? Cuéntanos por qué llora.
Felicidad, tantos años esperar esto, Señor. Gracias, Señor. Ay, Dios mío, esta es una alegría inmensa. Gracias, Señor. Gracias al presidente de Estados Unidos.
Compared to Venezuelans around the world, those still in the country have remained relatively quiet, largely over fears of retaliation from members of the Maduro regime who still remain in positions of authority. The Trump administration announced the U.S. would control the country of Venezuela until a new pro-democracy, pro-U.S. government can be put in place. An ICE operation in Minneapolis turned deadly Wednesday as agents opened fire on a woman who tried to run them over. By now, you've all seen the footage. 37-year-old Renee Good, who authorities say tried to block ICE agents with her vehicle, is dead after multiple videos appear to show her ramming one of the agents, prompting him to open fire. The agent in question had in fact been hit by another vehicle and dragged 300 feet 6 months ago during another ICE operation. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement saying the officer acted defensively, saving his own life and the lives of his fellow agents. DHS also says attacks on ICE have increased by 1,300% because politicians constantly demonize them. Speaking of which, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey rejected the claims that ICE acted in self-defense and blamed ICE and the Trump administration for actions they say are creating division and unrest. Walz also called on people around the country to stand with Minnesota against ICE. Governor Walz also ordered the Minnesota National Guard to prepare to mobilize, but it remains to be seen if they'll be used for riot control or to try and prevent ICE agents from carrying out their duties in the state. The Somali fraud case in Minnesota has grown so big that Congress held hearings this past week to try and get to the bottom of the problems. During House Oversight Committee hearings, Republicans and Democrats battled over the fraud charges. In one fiery exchange, Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida announced she's referring Governor Tim Walz and his Attorney General Keith Ellison to the Department of Justice for being complicit in the fraud. In closely related news, Vice President J.D. Vance announced the creation of a new Assistant Attorney General position, which will focus on investigating and prosecuting fraud nationwide. The Assistant AG will be different than a special prosecutor because the Senate will confirm him or her. Vance says the Assistant AG will begin work on the fraud in Minnesota first and then expand nationwide. The Vice President also says the administration hopes to put forward a nominee for the new position in the coming days. Big news from the Department of Health and Human Services. Major changes are happening that you need to know about. First, vaccines. The Center for Disease Control, now headed up by the Deputy Secretary for Health and Human Services, announced they are now recommending doctors give babies only 11 shots on the childhood vaccine schedule. That's way down from the previous 72, and those 11 are based on information from scientists around the world. The recommended vaccines are listed on the HHS website. Also, HHS has turned the food pyramid upside down. In the newly released dietary guidance, proteins, dairy, and healthy fats, as well as vegetables and fruit, are at the top, with carbohydrates like bread and grains at the bottom. The guidance calls for real dairy with all the fat, yes, that means whole milk, and also separates whole grains from processed grains. RFK Jr. says his message is clear: eat real food. To be fair, the crew over at South Park did predict this change way back in 2014.
The pyramid doesn't work. We've already tried it.
It's upside down.
What?
Sir, the pyramid is upside down.
Turn the pyramid upside down. You can't be serious. That would put butter and fat at the top of the food pyramid. This is not FDA approved. It's dinner time on the East Coast in 10 minutes. Now do it. Sir, we've got a match.
Nutrition is stabilizing.
We've got a well-balanced vaccine, sir.
On X, RFK Jr. released an updated version of the South Park clip, with him being the one giving the order to flip the pyramid upside down. Another goal of the new food guidelines is to help reduce healthcare costs related to obesity and type 2 diabetes, which a White House fact sheet shows cost taxpayers over $600 billion a year. And finally, everyone loves the scene in Indiana Jones when he runs from the giant boulder, but an audience enjoying an Indiana Jones stunt show got a little closer to the action than they bargained for. During a performance of the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular at Disney's Hollywood Studios last week, the 400-pound prop boulder fell from its track and began bouncing toward the audience. A crew member ran up to the boulder to block it before it reached the crowd. The selfless hero was brutally knocked down. He was hurt, but was able to stop the boulder in time. Ouch. Disney confirmed the crew member is recovering and will be okay, and that the show's safety team will be modifying the boulder part of the performance. That's it for now. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, and engage with us so that YouTube and all the socials push it out to more viewers. Thanks to our friends at crosscurrentdigital.com and America the Beautiful 250 for sponsoring DFE News. If you'd like to become a DFE News sponsor, please reach out. Our contact info is at the bottom of the screen and in the description. Thanks for watching DFE News. News done right. See you next time.